On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, we're going to review the new wonderful Wonka movie. Also, George Clooney says they're priming up to do probably another Ocean's 11 film, which has got me excited. Is it fair to say that 2025 is actually going to be the make or break year for the entire comic book genre? I think there's something to be said for that. James Gunn criticizes the comic book movie trend to have what he calls cameo porn. Deadpool 3 has been ranked as the #1 most anticipated film of 2024. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the first reviews are coming out and they're sky high. Also, the first reviews have come out for Zack Snyder's new Rebel Moon, and they're not as much. That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but hopefully giving you some information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether the same or completely different than ours. I got to apologize in advance again. I'm still under the weather. You're probably going to hear me hawk and cough and weak and whatever, and I'm going to be having lozenges in my mouth the whole time and sipping on hot tea, so bear with me as I get through the show. Fortunately, I'm not alone, though. I got Ray Ora.
Fortunately.
You got Jonathan Voico.
Hey.
And most fortunately, Chris Carr is here.
The most fortunate thing. Yes, suck it.
That's the name of your biography now.
Yes,
the most
fortunate thing.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thanks so much for making this show part of your day. Here's how the show's going to go. We're going to break it into two parts. The main part of the show, we're going to talk about all those topics I listed off. Then the last part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. Now, turns out our internet went out as we were doing our live questions yesterday, so we know some of them didn't get answered. Don't worry, we kept them, and we're going to make sure we answer the ones that didn't get answered live on air as well. All right, guys. With that all down, let's get started with this, shall we? It was with real interest when they announced that they were going to be making a prequel Willy Wonka movie. Now, I got really excited when I heard that Timothée Chalamet was going to be starring in it. I think he's the best up-and-coming actor. He's not even up-and-coming anymore. I think he's one of the best actors. He has the potential to maybe be the best actor in the world. I got real excited, though, when I found out the director of Paddington and Paddington 2, Paul King, was going to be doing it. And then we started to see some previews and some trailers. So yesterday, I finally had a chance, me, Ray, and Ann, finally had a chance to go and watch Wonka. And I'll tell you what, it's an absolute delight. It's a really charming little film. Now let me say right off the top here, I don't think it's as good as his Paddington movies, as Paul King's Paddington movies. But this is a movie that delivers something that a lot of movies don't do anymore. I don't even try to do. Just deliver joy. And the whole time I'm sitting in this theater watching this movie, from the first scene of Willie coming into town on a boat and entering the town for the first time to right to the end of the film, it was just a lot of joy. Grin on my face, a smile in my heart, and it just had that. The songs were catchy, not super catchy. I don't think any of the songs in this movie are going to be nominated for an Academy Award or anything, but the songs were cheerful and pleasant and great. I love the fact that Paul King seems to have a rule now that every one of his movies has to have at least one member of the cast of Downton Abbey in it. I love that he loves working with Hugh Grant. I love that he loves working with, why am I forgetting her name? From Shape of Water.
Oh.
And she was Paddington's mom.
Yeah.
Well, now she's Wonka's
Sally
mom.
Hawkins?
Yeah,
Yes,
Sally
thank you,
Hawkins,
Sally
yeah.
Hawkins. I love that he likes working with her. I mean, it was just, and Keegan-Michael Key was absolutely hilarious in this movie. I was happy to see him in it. I didn't know if he was a good fit for something like a Wonka. He's fantastic in this. But I got to talk about Hugh Grant. My one kind of nitpick with this film is that it should have had more of Hugh Grant's Oompa Loompa. He's not in a lot of the movie. I don't even think he enters the movie till at least well past the halfway part of the film. But he is absolutely wonderful. You just, again, smile in your heart every second he's on screen. And Timothée Chalamet, I mean, he brought it. I have not seen Timothée Chalamet in a role like this. Usually he's cannibalizing or, you know, struggling to survive in a desert world, or the drug addicted son of Steve Carell, or some like really, really heavy stuff. And I've been wondering how he would be able to do in something that's supposed to be light and exude happiness and joy. And he did it. He absolutely did it. Is this a film that should be nominated for Best Picture? No, I don't think it's that good. But I had an absolutely delightful time watching Wonka. Really, really fun. And I I think, and last I checked, I think it had in the mid 80s.
It was 84%.
84% was last you saw. I mean, and yeah, I think that's a perfectly good score for this. Anyway, Ray, you were there. What did you think of it?
Well, the audience score was 88%. It's 88%. You know what? It may not be Best Picture for any of us, but there was a little girl that was in there that was sitting behind us.
Oh,
that was her Best Picture because she was gushing about it afterwards. Like, she stayed as long as we did. We stayed until all the credits because we just wanted to hear the song. My only gripe with this film is, if you remember in Charlie and Chocolate Factory, when he first gets that first piece of chocolate and he stuffs his face, from that moment on, I felt like eating a chocolate bar.
Right.
There wasn't any moments in this film that showcased the candy enough where I was like, I want some chocolate. I really wanted like a couple of those moments where, like, you know, it's because I'm fat, you know what I mean? So it's like, I was happy throughout the whole film. There was a little emotional part at the end. I just had a good time. I'm not really a fan of musicals, but this one, the music was short, like the little parts. It didn't go throughout the whole movie. So yeah, this is just a joyful time.
Yeah, there's an emotional part near the end, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to turn my head right now and look at Anne, and I know she's going to be crying. And sure enough, I turned and looked at Anne, and while she wasn't like gushing, you just see tears streaming down her face as she's looking at the screen. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. It is a charming, delightful, not Best Picture of the Year kind of material, but a charming, delightful film, truly in the spirit of the Paddington movies. I think, and you know what? I was telling the guys before the show started today, it even makes me look at the original movie a little bit differently. Because you guys have seen in the trailers, one of the key characters in this movie is this young black girl. Her name in the movie is Noodle. And she's an important part of the movie. And she's the one in the trailers that says, double, huh? Anyway, so I actually kind of now look, and I won't explain why. You guys tell me what you think once you see the movie. When I now think about the original film, I realize, you know what? Willie in the original Chocolate Factory movie, Willie was actually trying to find the next Noodle. He was trying to find a child who was like Noodle.
That he couldn't murder?
What's that would motivate him to murder? No.
That's my big takeaway from Gene Wilder is like, so which of these kids won't get murdered?
Yeah, he was a little bit of a
They
homicidal.
survive that. They always get him out.
They all lived. He
Yeah,
talks
They
about
got
how they
free
all
candy.
survived.
Come on.
Yeah, they all
But I
lived.
mean, it's a
So
charm.
that's what pedophiles do, right?
They got free candy. It was
That's how they get kids into vans.
Ray's walking around. Free candy, kiddies. Free candy.
no. I'm the one who's looking for
yeah,
the
he's
candy.
literally
Raise
calling
I'll get in
people
any
Wonka
van.
bars.
I'll get in any van that has chocolate in it.
He's precious cargo who's going to get taken.
Don't get in any van.
I was like, what? Chocolate?
All
in it?
right. With that down, guys, high recommendation. Go and see Wonka. I think you're going to have a good time. All right. That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? Speaking of good times, I love heist films. And some of the greatest examples of heist films is the Ocean's 11 movies. Ocean's 11 is also a good example of a remake that actually was better than the original. And I adored it for that. But there's also been a lot of talk about whether or not that crew would ever come back. Would they come back and do it all again? Now, of course, we had the, pardon me, the Sandra Bullock and Ocean's movie that they did.
Oh, yeah, with Kate Blanchett.
With Kate Blanchett, Awkwafina.
Yeah. It was quite fun, actually.
It was actually, it didn't live up to the Ocean's 11 movies for me, but I enjoyed it. And Anne Hathaway I thought was
She's
great
in it.
She's really
Richard
good.
Armitage is such a piece of shit in it. I love it.
It's a good little movie. But people have been wondering, are we going to see that crew? I mean, George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Don Cheadle.
Damon.
On and on and on, right? Are we going to see that crew back together again? And every year that passes, it feels like, well, that's unlikely. Well, George Clooney is hinting that they may be gearing up to do another one. This comes to us from the folks at Variety who wrote the following. George Clooney may be returning to the Oceans franchise. In a new interview with Uprocks, while promoting his movie The Boys in the Boat, which I'm very excited about seeing, the actor revealed that a script for another Oceans movie exists that would seemingly reunite the original trilogy's cast for a movie set after the events of 2007's Ocean's 13. Clooney did not provide any concrete details. He said this, "We have a really good script for another Oceans now, so we may end up doing another one. It's actually a great script," Clooney told the publication. Now, he also went on to say that it won't be called Oceans 14. So there's that. So I have two trains of thought about this. Train of thought number one is, I really enjoy these films, and I would love to see that group back together again. I would love it. I would even like it if they brought in a couple of cast members from Sandra Bullock's Oceans movie. I think that could be kind of fun too. My one little hesitancy is, has the window closed on it? Because I don't remember. I know the first Oceans movie came out, what did we say it was?
2001.
So like 22, 23 years ago. And Ocean's 13
2007.
was 2007, so like 16 years ago.
And they're also planning a prequel, right? A
Yeah,
prequel
well, that's
movie
the
with
rumor.
Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie.
And they're talking about it that where they would play George Clooney's character's parents. So they're looking at kind of all coming back. But I wonder, I just wonder if the window is closed on a time frame that they can go back to it. But if I'm being honest, I really don't care. I don't care if nobody else is interested in seeing this. I would be interested in seeing this. First of all, I just love George Clooney. I love watching him on screen. I love Brad Pitt on screen. I love Matt Damon on screen. I love all these characters on screen. So, and if it's as long as it's a heist movie, it can't just be a Where Are They Now movie about, you know, trying to reconnect with their children. It has to be a heist movie. Make it a heist movie. Bring these guys back together again. And I am 100% all on board. Anyway, Chris, I don't know how you feel about the Oceans film, but what do you think about what George Clooney's saying here and the possibility of them getting back for another go-round?
It's what we always talk about, or at least what I always talk about with these kinds of filmmakers, right? It's the Taika Waititi effect of, I want to make movies with my friends. George Clooney wants to go make another one of these movies with his buddies. Hey, come hang out with me at, Lake Como. Let's make another heist movie.
We'll shoot in northern Italy. I don't really have to move.
I literally live across the street from Padme's palace in Star Wars. Let's shoot around here. It's fine. And these movies are super fun. I know this is going to sound like a dig, but this is my go-to hotel movie. It always plays whenever you're staying at a hotel. It is a surefire bet that one of the Oceans movies is going to play. And when you need downtime, you're just like, oh yeah, there's my buddies. Let's just watch this one. I love these. You do though have to then replace, you're missing Bernie Mac,
But you can play that in the film.
For sure. And that is part of the sadness though, I think of it, of just like, it's not going to be the 12, 13, 14, etc. Because we're missing some people. So I just would want it to be a really good script, and I would want it to still have that fun and charm to it. The other thing that I do worry about is one of the things I love so much in the originals is just how much they dog on Damon. I love how much they're like, you sweet, dumb baby, you sweet summer child. And we're pretty far removed from that character type for Matt Damon now, right? And it could be fun to revisit that or explore, is Linus now this more like savvy guy who's better at the con than these other guys? Are we going to really finally pass the torch on? Is Danny actually going to really retire? How is Tess putting up with another heist? They're fun things that you could explore. I would just want them to be done well, obviously.
Well, and don't forget, and this won't mean anything to people who didn't see Sandra Bullock's Oceans movie, but in Sandra Bullock's Oceans movie, Danny is supposed to have died. Remember, like she even visits his sarcophagus, right? Like, and it's like she goes, "You better actually be in there." Like, so they leave the door open that he faked his death. So that would have to be a part of the movie. That maybe that was the greatest heist they pulled, was him faking his death.
Well, and watching that movie too, I remember being like, "No, he's not. No, he's not."
All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Look, it's no big secret that as a result of a pretty large succession for a period of years of mediocre product and maybe an over influx of product. The comic book genre, which is still probably the most bankable thing to do, but it's suffering, whether it's DC, Marvel, whatever. We've got a very sparse 2024 coming out, which means 2025 could be very important. And that is the subject of today's Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. Listen, guys, if you got a topic or question for the show and you'd like to hear your voice on our show, go ahead and call our Mint Mobile hotline anytime 24/7 at 951-268-4259. And this question is about the real big importance of 2025. Check it out.
Hey, John and crew, Jeremy Lynch here, big fan of the show. My question is about the significance of the year 2025 to the superhero movie genre. How significant do you think that year is going to be? Personally, I think it could be a make or break year for the genre. We have DC launching its new DCU with James Gunn and Peter Safran starting with Superman Legacy that year, with Marvel taking kind of a break in 2024. They only have Deadpool slated for that year. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Thanks a lot, and I'm looking forward to hearing the show.
All right, thanks a lot for calling that in, Jeremy. And you know what? I don't think you're far off. 2025 could very well be a make or break year for the comic book genre, in the sense that it's going to be the resurgence return to where we were in 2018, or it's going to be the beginning of winter, that winter has come. And we're going to go through a couple of years of, the barren wilderness of cold and the ice. And then another comic book movie will come out sometime down the road that'll reignite it all again. It all goes in cycles. But I don't think you're actually exaggerating when saying 2025 could be that make or break year, because 2024 is our let's catch our breath year, right? Obviously for DC, because DC has no product coming out in 2024, at least not in the DCU. I believe Joker 2 is supposed to come out in 2024.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, there's that. Marvel has the one film. They've got Deadpool 3. But really, it's an eye of the storm kind of year for 2024. In 2025, Marvel comes back out swinging, and DC is relaunching with Superman Legacy, with a brand new DCU. As a matter of fact, let's go and take a look at the schedule here. In 2025, DC has Superman Legacy, and although it's not a part of the DCU, they've got the Batman 2 coming out. Marvel's got 4 theatrical films coming out, as of now, at any rate. They got Captain America Brave New World, they got Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, and Blade. And I actually think you are right in saying that this lineup is the lineup that I think the entire industry is looking at and hoping that these things break out. Now, look, I've already said a million times, I don't expect Superman Legacy to be a big hit at the box office. It's going to take time to rehabilitate. DC is a broken, bruised puppy that's been hit by 5 cars trying to get down the sidewalk right now. It's going to take a little while for it to heal up, right? But Superman Legacy needs to be great in order to get the healing started. It's super important that it's great, not so important that it's a massive box office hit, because nothing with a DC label on it is a massive hit anymore. And then the Batman 2, can it meet the same levels of success that the first one did?
Hell yeah.
Doesn't even okay.
Guarantee it.
Doesn't even have to surpass it, but can it get close to that same level of success? And then you move down to the Marvel outlets. Listen, you're coming out of the gate in 2025 with Captain America. A Captain America movie that right now seems like it's in a bit of a precarious position. They've just brought on a new writer. They're going back for some reshoots in a few months, try to change a bunch of things. Of course, that's a result of the fact that Kevin Feige now has his authority back and he wants to change some things. That's fine. The highly anticipated Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, which I wasn't interested in until I saw the lineup. Now I am. And the movie that may never happen, Blade, that they literally announced 4 years ago. Listen, I know we as movie fans are prone to hyperbole, but I think you're right. I think this is a make or break year. Because if Superman Legacy can live up to its potential, and if the Batman 2 can get close to the same level of success of the first one, and at least 3 of the 4, Captain America, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, Blade, not all of them have to knock it out of the park, but if at least 3 out of the 4 of them are really good and solid and do pretty well, I think that would bode very well moving into the future. That, yes, we hit a stumble. The comic book genre started to flounder a little bit after 2019, 2020, but we're back on track and we're ready to go. However, if Superman Legacy is bad, oh God, forget. Okay, let's not even talk about the comic book genre as a whole. Let's just talk about DC. They're really in trouble. Because you know, the old adage, you don't get a second chance to make a good first impression. Okay, James. And everybody knows I'm a huge James Gunn guy. I'm a massive James Gunn fan. I don't mean to put undue pressure, but oh my God, you damn well better knock this one out of the park. Doesn't have to make $700 million, but it's got to be great so people start getting excited about the product again. Has to. But if Captain America Brave New World disappoints or underperforms, if Fantastic Four, a movie people have been dying to have happen ever since the Marvel Cinematic Universe started to get big dreams of Fantastic Four coming back to the MCU and all that kind of stuff. If Thunderbolts underperform, if Blade doesn't move the needle for anybody, that's it. That's it. Which was the Batman one with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
That was
Batman and Robin?
Forever.
Is that Forever?
Or, Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin. All right.
Awful.
Batman and Robin
Yeah.
killed the genre for a couple of years. It did. It killed the genre for a couple of years.
Killed my genre.
Can't
Jeez,
put
that was-
nipples on a suit.
That was the least of its problems.
That was the least of its problems. But I would propose if 2025 underwhelms, we could be in the same position that we were in when Batman and Robin came out, that we're going to have like a couple of years where it's going to be pretty hard going. So I think it is vitally important that not every single one of these movies knock it out of the park, but that they overall turn in a solid effort. Anyway, Chris, you know the question, but we haven't been in this kind of position in the last 15 years of, you know, from a perception point of view, that the comic book genre is as weak as it is right now. I mean, that's had some great stuff, yes, but
Sure.
more weak stuff than we're accustomed to. Is it hyperbole to think that 2025 could be your make or break year? How do you see it?
I don't think it's hyperbole, but I think if you look at it from a film history perspective, it's not a super dire situation because film is cyclical, right? The reason why Star Wars partially is named A New Hope is not only because of the title of the film, but it's a return to the hero genre when we were dealing with anti-heroes for so long. People got burnt out on that, and we had all these kind of gritty, grim anti-heroes in the 1970s, and that's what a lot of people ran to in audiences. And then we saw people tire of that, and then we had the emergence of heroic figures again, good versus evil, with a bit more clear-cut boundaries, right? So I think with this, first of all, these movies have to come out. Full stop.
Yeah, something that they haven't done so good at lately.
Exactly.
Just coming out.
Are they going to come out in 2025? Are they going to come out in 2025? We'll find out. And if they do, sure, that could be a year where we could see the pendulums shift one way or the other. But I don't want people to get too distraught. I know it seems really upsetting when it's IP that you love, stories that you love, to see movies shift away from it. But that also is just the nature of film. We tend to gravitate to one kind of story. Executives tend to gravitate towards one kind of story for a while too. Hey, this is bankable. Hey, we know we can profit off of this. And even if we do have to pause on this, this will allow other types of films to be made for a while. And those will be really cool and interesting too. And then we'll come back to superheroes. We see it in the comic book industry itself with superheroes. It's why there was the rise of the anti-heroes, of Garth Ennis kind of things like The Boys. So even if this does fail, it's going to be a baptism by fire where a phoenix can rise from it and we can have something greater in the end.
All right, guys. I guess the question is, what do you think about this? Is this an exaggeration? Say 2025 could indeed be a make or break year for the genre, at least for a short term. Whatever you guys think, let us know. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? The aforementioned James Gunn and, of course, Peter Safran, who now run DC, and he is like kind of the chosen one, I guess, the guy who has had one foot in both worlds. He's been a successful director in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's had success in DC. And of course, now there's a whole new era of DC coming where he's doing stuff. But that's not to say that James Gunn doesn't have some sharp critiques for certain things that are present in the comic book genre. Now, it was interesting. He was answering a question about, are you overcrowding the new Superman movie? Because some people, well, okay, you got Superman, you got Lois, you got Nicholas Holt's now going to be Lex Luthor. Nathan Fillion is Guy Gardner. You got the dude from Twilight is playing Mr. Terrific. You got a hot girl and a couple of other characters. Now, of course, that's kind of a ridiculous thing to worry about. It's like, that's 7 characters right there. Every movie has like that and many, many, many more. Like, just for giggles, I opened up the IMDb for Barbie. Got Margot Robbie, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Emma McKay, Hari Neff. You got Anna Cruz Kane, Dua Lipa. Then you get into the Kens. We haven't even gotten to the Kens yet. Ryan Gosling, Simu Liu, Kingsley Ben-Adir, who of course was recently in Secret Wars. Scott Evans, John Cena, Michael Cera as Alan. He was actually really good as Alan in there. America Ferrera, Ariana Greenblatt, Ray Perlman was in it, who was great. Helen Mirren, Will Ferrell was in. I mean, we're up to like over 10, 12, 13, 14 characters already. But listen, if I open up Oppenheimer's IMDb, same thing. The only difference is with these comic book movies is that you recognize the name of the characters. And all of a sudden it feels like it's overcrowded. No, most movies will have many characters and they have a role to play in the movie, but they're just characters you don't know, so you don't even think about it. Anyway, James Gunn was referring to that when he brought up a criticism about the genre itself. He said this comes to us from Men's Journal, where Gunn said the following. The whole point was it's not a large film, talking about Superman Legacy. I mean, not in terms of cast. It's normal for single protagonist films to have other characters. Much more unusual for them not to, and he's absolutely right about that. He went on to share his most hated element of modern superhero films, prevalent in Marvel's recent output. I call that cameo porn, and it has been one of the worst elements in recent superhero films. If a character is in a film, they have to have a reason to be there story-wise. First of all, let me put on my church robes and say, amen. I've been preaching that gospel for a while. I've been saying this for a while. I've started going crazy about just stupid pop-up cameos. Like, oh, this is great because this cameo happened. I only like cameos if it's like they have a narrative purpose for being there. And that's exactly what James Gunn is saying. They've got to have there's got to be a story point to them being in there. It can't just be, oh, hi guys, remember I was in that one movie? Bye. Like, and so many, it seems to be the trend about who can pop up in this movie, right? And even us as fans, that's become a big thing with us as fans. Like when a new movie's coming out, it's like, oh, do you think so-and-so is going to pop up? Do you think so-and-so is going to do a cameo? Do you think so-and-so is going to do? And it's become, I love the way James Gunn puts it. It's cameo porn.
Well, and it's also like a major selling point in their trailers now. So it's like, okay, well.
Even if it has nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, behold, this character's there, everybody, for no reason whatsoever. I mean, there's a good way to do it and a bad way to do it. A great example of a good way to do it is like Nathan Fillion in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. That captain of the guard is actually, there's a story point to that character. Forget that Nathan Fillion's playing the character. Like if you've got a character that has a story purpose, whether or not it's played by an actor you know, or the role, the role is being filled by a character you know, as long as if you take away the famous actor out of it, did that role need to be there in the movie? And the captain of the guard did. And they just decided, you know what, let's put Nathan Fillion in that role. They weren't like, let's find an excuse to put Nathan Fillion in the movie. No, it was like, there's this role, there's this character we have, and it'd be great if Nathan Fillion played it. Boom. And so there's two kind of things he's covering here. One is movie fans get they too quickly go to the question, it's like, are they overcrowding this movie? Guys, this is a normal amount of characters for most movies. And then the second thing is about our obsession with cameo porn. And I agree with what he's saying there. Anyway, Chris, you heard the stuff that James is talking about. What position do you take on this?
Honestly, the first thing that came to mind, though, was his Suicide Squad of, okay, but I understood they served a purpose, but everyone, for the most part, who went on the press tour for that movie were the people who were killed within a 1 minute span. And it was, oh my gosh, I can't believe Pete Davidson is part of the Suicide Squad. This is going to be really interesting. I'm wondering what they're going to do with him. Murdered. And it does show exactly how the Suicide Squad works, right? That there are real stakes and these characters can be killed off immediately. But that, I feel, is another example of kind of a stunt casting situation. I think sometimes the cameos work and sometimes they don't. This is something we've talked about ad nauseum when it comes to Deadpool 3, right? With how overstuffed this feels of everybody and their mom is in this movie. Is that going to actually serve a purpose, or is it just to have all of these folks in there? If they do serve a purpose, ultimately that leads to, oh, wow, look, the multiverse is fucking bananas. Then I can see how you can justify it. But I don't know. I don't feel like a lot of these have been particularly egregious. I haven't seen a lot of these movies and gone, wow, this is so useless. I wish they utilized the people in, like, say, Doctor Strange more. I wish there was bigger payoff to that, as opposed to, again, showing there were real-world stakes and people could just be murdered immediately, much like in Suicide Squad. But I don't think it's been this continued, like, member berry, we're just doing this as fan service kind of thing yet. That honestly is my very big fear with Deadpool 3.
See, the nice thing about the Suicide Squad example is that whole scene, that opening scene with that first group of Suicide Squad getting all murdered, that was a scene that needed to be in the movie. But it's just that even if it wasn't Pete Davidson, and even if it wasn't Nathan Fillion, those characters would need to be there to serve the purpose of the story about showing what happens to all that kind of stuff. And then filling it with famous faces, I have no problem with that, because if the characters needed to be there anyway, that's fine. The one advantage, the one thing that worked for them, putting all these names as playing those characters, was that while I did not necessarily think that they were going to play big roles throughout the whole movie, I remember I'm sitting down to watch Suicide Squad and thinking, because it's all these big names, it shocked me when they killed them all instantly, right? Like if it was just like no name kind of day actors playing those roles, I would have gone, oh, wow, they killed her. But it's because all these big names are in there. It's like, what? They're all just dead? It actually served a purpose, I suppose.
I feel like Michael should be very concerned that James just kills him all the time. You know? I would question my friendship a little and be like, thank you so much for always putting me in your movies. Could I not die or become disgusting? I don't know.
All right, guys, listen. We still got to talk about Deadpool 3 just got ranked as the most anticipated movie of 2024. Percy Jackson, the reviews are really unexpectedly high, and the Zack Snyder new film Rebel Moon are rather unexpectedly low. We're going to talk about all those things in just a second, but before we do, we're going to take just a moment and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at BetterHelp and HelloFresh. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. You know, guys, it's Christmas time, and I don't know about your family, but mine always used to like giving a lot of gifts. And whether you like giving big, elaborate gifts or small personal gifts, it's important not to forget to also give to yourself during this season, because the holidays are a great time to do that. So whether it's by starting therapy, going easier on yourself during the tough moments, or treating yourself to a day of complete rest, remember to give yourself some love this holiday season too. And you know, I think we need to talk about this more. You know, we always encourage each other when we're talking about improving our physical health, you know, going to the gym and working out. We talk about it with each other. We encourage each other. Well, I believe it's time we start doing that when it comes to our mental health. Make sure we're taking care of ourselves by looking at our mental health too. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So guys, in the season of giving, give yourself what you need with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Campea today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Campea. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable, and that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Say hello to a stressless holiday season with the help of HelloFresh. Skip the grocery store and save time with easy, tasty recipes delivered right to your door. Because 'tis the season for giving and gathering, and with HelloFresh, it can also be the season of saving. Actually, save money this this month with fresh recipes delivered cheaper than takeout and with pre-portioned ingredients. You'll never waste money on excess food again. You know, guys, I've often talked about that Ann and I are both working professionals, and it can be a struggle around dinner time to get healthy and delicious meals put together. But with HelloFresh, they make it easy, they make it fun, and they make it delicious. So guys, go to HelloFresh.com/Campea free and use the code Campea free for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/Campea free with the code Campea free. And thank you to our friends at BetterHelp and HelloFresh for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get into this, shall we? Well, we are approaching 2024, and as they do every year, the number one movie ticketing site in the world, Fandango, does a little bit of a survey amongst all the people who frequent them, and they ask them, what is the most anticipated film of the year to you guys? And the results are a little bit surprising to me. I mean, some of them aren't surprising, but a couple are. So let's go and take a look at this. So at number 10 is A Quiet Place Day One. I'm very excited. Lupita Nyong'o joins the Quiet Place world. At number 9, Gladiator 2. I didn't even know most people knew that movie was coming out. At number 8, a movie I totally forgot was coming out, the animated Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. At number 7, Inside Out 2. At number 6, Despicable Me 4. At number 5, Venom 3. At number 4, Dune Part 2. At number 3, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. At number 2, Beetlejuice 2. And at number 1, no surprise, Deadpool 3. So Deadpool 3 being up there as the number 1, not surprising to me. And that's probably my most anticipated film for the next 10 years. It's Deadpool 3. I cannot wait. For me, a very close second would be Dune Part 2. What I was really surprised by was that Beetlejuice 2 ranked so high. Because I'm going to admit, I'll admit it, I really did not think there were going to be that many people all that excited about it.
That's a shocker to me, the Beetlejuice one.
Yeah, now listen, this could be an abbreviation. What is it when a ghost appears? It's rhymes.
Apparition?
Apparition. Hey, this could be an abbreviation. No, John, that's something very different.
Oh my God, it's an abbreviation.
An abbreviation. Sure, JGL, Notorious Big.
Notorious abbreviation.
But and maybe nobody goes to see Beetlejuice 2. I'm just saying, I was really surprised to see it that high because I honestly wouldn't have thought it would have been that high. Also, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I loved the last Ghostbusters film. Had a blast with it, but it's not like it blew up the box office, but maybe a lot of people saw it afterwards and got on board with it and whatever. Dune Part 2, clear, that would be my number 1 too. I love seeing that Venom 3 rank so high on there. Again, then Despicable Me 4, Inside Out, Lord of the Rings, Gladiator, Quiet Place Day One. Also interesting, most anticipated new performance on the big screen. People, number 1, are looking forward to Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, Jenna Ortega in Beetlejuice, Ariana Grande in Wicked Part 1. Listen, I had zero interest in Wicked until they showed us that 15-minute presentation on it at CinemaCon this year, and I could not believe my eyes. Like, I'm very excited for that. And Chris Pratt as Garfield.
Who?
Yeah.
Who was anticipating it?
Chris Pratt as the number 4 most anticipated performance of the year.
Nothing has made me believe the trades less than that line of text.
It's Fandango. It's the biggest movie ticketing site out there.
I don't believe you.
And Pedro Pascal for Gladiator 2.
3.
Most anticipated heroes. They got Hugh Jackman, number 1 as Wolverine.
Yeah, that's a...
Wolverine, or Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson in Deadpool 3. So 2 Deadpool 3s. Steve Carell returning as Gru. I love Steve Carell as Gru. Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock in Venom 3, and Jack Black as Poe in Kung Fu Panda 4. Most anticipated villains, Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. Is he really a villain? I mean, well, I guess you could classify him.
He does try to marry a child and take her to hell.
You know.
What?
Just let him be him. Let him be him. Don't judge. That's my motto. Don't judge.
You do you, player.
Live and let live, or not, you know.
Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, the aliens from A Quiet Place Day One, and Austin Butler in Dune Part 2. So anyway, but going back up to this, No real surprise that Deadpool 3 ranks as the number one most anticipated. Anything on this list jump out to you, Chris, or surprise you?
The Garfield one, I don't believe it.
I mean, most anticipated movies.
Oh, most anticipated movies. I think my millennial is probably showing on saying, you guys didn't think the Beetlejuice would be anticipated by people? You didn't think people would be excited?
I
Not
really
number
didn't.
two, because
I
it's from the 80s, and I
Yeah.
don't hear a lot of people like, oh my God, Beetlejuice is coming out.
Well, TikTok has had this huge kind of resurgence of love for the Beetlejuice musical.
Yeah, see, that's the only thing. You know,
I
some
think
people
that's
like to
what's doing
vape
it.
in that thing I hear in that musical. It's crazy, but yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
So I feel like between the mix
That's
of
a
people
little
who
inside
have
CNN watching baseball there. Come from Jonathan.
people who have nostalgia for the original movie, who have fallen in love with the musical, who have just seen stuff on TikTok and like the music, or people who are super into Keaton, right? You've got Keaton in there, you've got Jenna Ortega in there, you've got Winona in there. So I feel like that makes sense to me. And then Deadpool, I feel, is very obvious, especially as our only Marvel offering that year. Of course, we're rabid for that one. Despicably Me 4, I guess. I mean, I look at the Eye of Mignon every day as I drive over here, and I don't think people love that as much as I guess children do. I don't know. Are children polling on Rotten Tomatoes or
the
Fandango?
last Minions movie that just came out did super well.
That's
I
true.
don't think it cracked 1 billion, but it got real damn close to 1 billion. I didn't love Despicable Me 3, the one with his twin brother in it.
Right.
I gotta admit, I didn't love that one.
Wasn't that Owen Wilson or something that played the voice of?
No, I thought it was Steve. Oh no,
It wasn't
gosh.
Owen Wilson though.
Oh, okay.
I forget who
Which
it was,
character?
but
his brother.
it was
or
my
cousin or-
least favorite of the Despicable
look
Me
it up.
movies, but I still love the franchise. I think the franchise is great. I was pleasantly surprised by the last Minions. What is it called? Minions: The Rise of Gru.
Yeah.
I didn't think it looked very good. I didn't love the other Minions movie. So I was very, very late to the Rise of Gru party, but it was really quite fun. It was a good little movie, and I'm looking forward to part 4. But the question is for you guys, how would you rank your most anticipated films for this coming year? Let us know what you guys think. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? Percy Jackson and the Olympians was a movie that came out, I can't remember how long ago now it came out, based on the novels and stuff like that. And I liked those movies. I didn't love them, but I liked them. I thought they were fun. The first one was better than the second one, but still, I enjoyed those films. When they announced that Disney Plus was bringing it back, and they were doing it again, this time in the form of a limited or of a very short season of television, I confess a little bit of pessimism. But I didn't know if people were all actually going to be all that interested and whatever. But we've actually felt some excitement from the fan base for a while now that this show was coming to Disney Plus and all that kind of stuff. Well, the first reviews are now out for Percy Jackson and the Olympians on Rotten Tomatoes, and they're surprisingly strong, 96%.
Wow.
Now, granted, it's only 25 reviews right now, but there's some significant reviews in there, and they're liking it. The AV Club said, Uncle Rick has worked hard to give us something that adheres to the spirit of the original work, something fast-paced and bonkers in the best possible way, thoroughly entertaining. Variety wrote, the series depicts a genuinely inclusive world, showcasing storylines and characters that will captivate fans for the next decade. At long last, I never know how to pronounce his name, Royden? Anyway, Royden's work has been given the extensive...
Reardon.
Reardon.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Has been given the extensive visual adaptation that it deserves. The Seattle Times writes, even with the lightning quick pacing, Percy has plenty going for it. Visually, it's a gem. The Daily Telegraph writes, ready yourself and order the Penguin Book of Classical Myths for the kids to obsess over when they're finished watching Percy Jackson. Then we got a negative one. The one negative one on the list. Slant Magazine wrote, largely missing from the series is the coherent world building and quicksilver pacing of the novels. But the Wrap seems to disagree. The writing is quick-witted, the action is stellar, and making Percy's journey an episodic tale helps to propel the young character forward in exciting directions. And it goes on. It's just basically a lot of praise. I got to tell you guys, Really surprised to hear that. I have not been all that excited about watching this, even though I like the original films. But seeing all this super hyped up excitement for it has got me going, you know what? Okay, I'm on board. I'm going to check this out when it comes out next week. And so now I'm kind of looking forward. And by the way, the kid,
Walker Scoble.
who of course played the young Ryan Reynolds in The Adam Project, and Owen Wilson's son in the Secret Headquarters, which is a terrible movie, but the kid was amazing in it.
How dare you?
This kid's going to be a superstar. This kid's absolutely going to be a superstar someday. I'm looking forward to it now. Anyway, Chris, where has your anticipation level been for this? Did you ever read the books? Did you see the original movies? What do you think about the reviews you're hearing?
So my brother was obsessed with these books. He loved these. So I really only knew about it through Hayden. But I've been pretty excited about this because when the creator of something is on board for the adaptation, I always am very, very pumped about that, for seeing their vision come to fruition a bit more. With him as an executive producer along with his wife, I felt that was a very, very big boost in the right direction. They were there for casting everything too. There was an article that came out a little while ago about how exhaustive this best friend casting was, of just pairing Walker with kid after kid after kid to make sure they nailed this dynamic. Because ultimately you are going for a sort of Harry Potter trio situation here. You want those kids to really, really gel and feel like real friends who are actual ride or die kind of buddies. So I've been really excited about the casting process. I've been super, super stoked to see everyone else in this. I mean, what does he go by? The Triple R Superstar? Or the Rated R Superstar? Edge, yes. I love Edge, and I'm really excited to see him in this because he was really good on Vikings, you guys. I didn't love that show because it was too violent for me, but he was so good on Vikings, and I want him to do more stuff, especially because wrestling is very dangerous, and I worry about his spine all the time. Yeah. So I'm just really excited. I hope this is great. I hope it's not, like a second coming of Willow. Because that show had a lot of problems. But I'm really optimistic about this.
Well, here's hoping, guys. Are you looking forward to Percy Jackson and the Olympians? Let us know what you guys think. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? On the topic of highly anticipated things, there's been a lot of interest surrounding Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon. First one, Child of Fart and Smoke, and the second one is The Destiny of the Fork of Spades. I don't know what the subtitles are of them. But I've been looking forward to Rebel Moon because, first of all, Zack Snyder has made one of my all-time favorite comic book movies, Man of Steel, the most underrated comic book film of all time. Who doesn't love 300? The Legend of the Guardians, the Owls of Goa'uld is a highly underrated animated film. And I know not everybody loved Army of Darkness, but I got a real kick out of Army of Darkness. I got a kick out of it. Well, next week, Rebel Moon comes out, and the reviews are now coming in, and they are not good. Now, before we get too much, I want to remind people, it's not like just all the critics just hate Zack Snyder. Here's his last movie, Army of Darkness. Very respectable, 67% on it. So the critics clearly don't have anything against Zack Snyder. These are the same critics. But Rebel Moon, right now with 38, it's 26%. And notably, all of what they would call as the top critics, I think none of them have given it a positive review.
I don't think so.
Deadline Hollywood wrote another Zack Snyder movie that deals with the same old issues, quality production values with scatterbrained, incoherent storytelling. I feel like a broken record. The Wrap wrote, a hugely expensive but uninspired Star Wars knockoff with some thrilling action sequences, that's good to hear, and some truly ugly moments that taint the entire thing. RogerEbert.com writes, Rebel Moon often looks more like an animated pitch for a movie than an actual movie with human characters, urgent drama, emotional stakes, and so forth. The Guardian wrote, Snyder mistakes exposition for world building. I don't even know what that word is. Lugubriously delivered realms of backstory, removing the audience from the fantasy rather than immersing them in it.
I don't know.
The Independent wrote, it's a film populated by some of the Justice League Snyder Cut filmmakers' worst impulses. A mess of imagery, some of it attempting to shock, congregated largely around the idea of what might look good in a trailer. Woo! Congregated largely around the idea of what might look good in a trailer. IndieWire. A movie that feels like a million isolated storyboards without a single thing welding them together. The Los Angeles Times writes, the film is too invested in table setting to be fully enjoyed on its own. At times, feeling more like a studio presentation deck than a piece of organic storytelling. The Hollywood Reporter writes, just seconds into the laden sci-fi saga Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, it's clear the director is back indulging his worst tendency of self-serious bombast.
Oh no.
But the next one will be better.
Oh.
Yeah, but Part 2 will be great.
Yeah.
Look, I am saddened.
Are you lugubrious?
Would you say I have a plethora of reviews?
Yeah,
Oh,
and you
yes,
have a
yes,
plethora.
Guapo. You have a plethora. Kudos to anybody who knows that reference. Anyway, listen, as somebody who will forever have a debt to Zack Snyder for giving us Man of Steel. Hey, I don't care what anybody says. Brilliant fucking movie. I don't care what anybody says. Gets better every time I watch it.
Oh, she was saying she hated it.
She says she hates it all the time. All the time.
Well, Merry fucking Christmas, Jonathan.
Like the kids at the dinner table, like she said she hated it.
She said she hated it. As
Of
somebody,
course, I do the.
as somebody who appreciated Army of the Dead as a fun kick around zombie film. Listen, I'm still going to watch this. It would not be the first time that a lot of critics hated a movie that I ended up really enjoying. Hell, there's a bunch of movies that I really enjoy that the critics hate and vice versa and whatever, but I'm still going to watch this. It does sound like there's a common theme here amongst at least the top critics of this is really just jarbled. The whole idea about it feels more like a pitch for a movie than a movie. Some people mentioning it feels like a bunch of scattered storyboard elements. Somebody mentioning it just feels like there are things in this movie that are just there so it would make a great trailer or whatever. Listen, and there's been a number of things that have been intriguing to me about this. One is Sofia Boutella, who and I think many of you guys have liked for very long. We've never seen her lead a project. And I'm not hearing anybody talk loudly about Sofia Boutella in it, or Charlie Hunnam for that matter. Obviously, one of the stars of one of my all-time favorite shows in Sons of Anarchy. Jaimon Hansu, who I think is one of the treasures of Hollywood, is in there. Not a lot of discussion about that, but I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit disappointed. Again, we'll see how I feel about it when I watch it in a few days, but not the best start, I guess. And again, it's unfortunate to see a number of the people who are giving this bad reviews are people who gave Army of the Dead positive reviews. So I don't know. Anyway, Chris, where's your anticipation level like for Rebel Moon? What's your expectation level, and what do you think about the reviews we're getting?
I'd be lying if I didn't say this lowers it a bit. And I've talked about this before. Sometimes, Zack Snyder suffers from style over substance. And that's been an issue. I will say, though, usually critics, at least when we're looking at Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score is typically 10 to 20% lower than what the audience score ends up being, right? 300, which I love, 46% from critics, only 51% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
That movie's brilliant. I don't care what it is. I love that movie.
You guys get your taste in order. The Guardians of Ga'Hoole, 52%, 64%. Sucker Punch, 22%.
Well, Sucker Punch is the
47.
one Zack Snyder film that I don't like.
That 22%, though, with Rebel Moon being placed at 26. Justice League, his Justice League, 72% critic score, 93% audience score. Batman v Superman, 29% critic score, 63% audience score. So typically, audiences don't seem to have the same perspective as the critics do when it comes to Zack Snyder's work.
Now, I think that's true beyond just Zack Snyder, because one of the things we always talk about is that, remember, the critics are going to see it
as a critic.
They're going to see it purely as they're going to see a movie. Whereas the audiences who aren't into superhero films aren't going to go see it. So the only people you're hearing from are the people who are interested. Same is true of BMX movies or whatever kind of thing you have. So generally speaking, I think you will normally see, not always, you will normally see the audience score a little bit higher than the critic score.
For sure. So I think that if you are a Zack Snyder fan, this shouldn't sway you too much. Because, hey, it's just people not getting Zack's work. For someone like me who has found him to be a bit more hit or miss and not really loved everything he's done, this does seem like it's pretty much on par with what I figured for this movie. That being said, I want this to do well. I really want him to have a sci-fi epic that is great. One, because I want him to be able to do more than be remembered as the Snyderverse guy. I want him to have more on his plate than that and get to do more and explore more kind of things. But if you see somebody making the same mistakes over and over and over again, the dictionary defines that as insanity, right? So,
yeah, I mean, it's interesting you point out that maybe this is just going to be one that Snyder, one of the critics, a Variety critic, actually, Owen wrote this. He said, Rebel Moon, while eminently watchable, is a movie built so entirely out of spare parts that it may, in the end, be for Snyder cultists only.
Oh,
and
I hate that.
Yeah, and so like what I was kind of hoping would come out of this, and again, I have not seen the movie yet myself. I'm not giving you my opinion on it. My opinion is going to come in a couple of days. But what I was kind of hoping to hear was that this would be a movie that would break that barrier, that it's not just going to be the Snyder bros who watch it and like it because it's Snyder, but that rather a wider group of people would watch it and embrace it. So, I mean, I don't know. The one thing I do know is that you can't believe whatever audience score comes out on this, because again, when it comes to theatrical movies, Rotten Tomatoes will only let people score count that verify they saw the movie. Like they bought a ticket through Fandango, through AMC, or through Regal, and it's verified these people actually saw it. Whereas with anything that airs on television, streaming service, whatever, they can't. So anybody who hasn't even seen the movie can go in and verify it. So if the score is super low, if the score is super high, I won't take it seriously. But I'm disappointed that we're not seeing a wider group of people enjoying this one, particularly after seeing how many people enjoyed his Army of the Dead movie.
Yeah.
So Black Samurai says, so it's a Star Wars knockoff. It was originally pitched as a Star Wars movie, right?
Right. But what I'm hearing from a lot of the critics that I've been reading about it, a lot of them are saying, well, one of them did say it's kind of like a Star Wars knockoff. I've read a couple of them say it's not so much a Star Wars knockoff as it is what Rob and I speculated. They're saying it's really more of a Seven Samurai knockoff. It's a Kurosawa knockoff.
Okay.
Or a Battle Beyond the Stars,
right.
which was itself a
right.
Kurosawa knockoff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm still gonna watch it. I'm still gonna watch it the minute it drops on Netflix. I don't care.
It's there,
you got Charlie Hunnam in there. This is the guy who made Man of Steel.
Yep.
And I'm gonna be one of the 26%. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, guys. What about you? Where's your anticipation level like for this movie right now? What do you think about the reviews that we're hearing? Is it right around where you thought it would be? Is it surprisingly high, surprisingly low? Wherever you guys think, let us know. Okay, guys. With all that down, we're now going to move on and start taking your questions. But before we do, we're going to take just a quick moment here and thank a couple of sponsors, or actually one sponsor of the John Campea Show, our main sponsor, my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a moment and thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Give yourself the gift of insane savings this holiday season with Mint Mobile's best wireless deal of the year. Right now, when you switch to Mint Mobile and buy any 3-month plan, you'll get another 3 months for free. That's 6 months of premium wireless service for the price of 3. And Mint Mobile lets you order and activate from home while saving tons on phone plans starting at just $15 a month. Seriously, I can't think of a better gift than turning an overpriced wireless bill into just $15 a month with Mint Mobile. I've told you guys many times, since switching to Mint Mobile, I am spending less than a third on my mobile service plan with Mint than I was on the previous big carrier who was my provider. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily and effortlessly with eSIM. So again, for a limited time, buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months free by going to mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, listen, I'm going to give you a little bit of a context here. So if you listen to the audio podcast, which, by the way, thank you to everybody who checks out our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Spotify said the video version of our show on Spotify was in the top 1% of video podcasts on Spotify for 2023. So thank you to Spotify for that. But for those of you who listen to our podcast, you heard us answer all of the Super Chat questions that came in. But unfortunately, for those of you watching on YouTube, our internet went out in the office as we were going through the live questions. So we're going to go back and answer some of the questions that we didn't get to answer on the video yesterday before we roll into today's questions. Capiche? All right, let's get into it here. Chris, what are we starting with?
With Kyle Schneider, not hearing great things about Rebel Moon. Hey.
Well, yeah, I remember. Yeah, that kind of said, really? Because I hadn't heard anything from anybody yet. It's like, really? No, I'm sure it's going to be fine. Yeah, well, yeah, here we are. All right, what's next?
From TJ Perry, seen the trailer for If yet? John Krasinski directing Ryan Reynolds and Steve Carell in a movie about imaginary friends and growing up. Looks sweet.
You know what, TJ, you said it perfectly. It looks really sweet. I saw, they showed us a big presentation for it at CinemaCon back in April. Looked intriguing. Normally when the first trailer comes out, it includes all like entirely footage that they had already shown us at CinemaCon, but this was like all new stuff that they didn't show us at CinemaCon. And I thought the trailer looked really sweet. I'm looking forward to watching it. All right, what's next?
From Zachary Zarvos, watched Iron Claw. This movie is devastating. Zac Efron is great and jacked AF. Reminds me of the Franco Columbo Arnold days.
Yeah. It's always funny looking at pictures of Arnold and Franco beside each other because Franco looks so short compared to Arnold. But listen, my wife Ann saw the movie. I didn't see it. I was supposed to go with them, but I was really sick. Her and Ray went to go see it. Same thing. Really good movie. Great performances. Super depressing. Very heavy. Yeah. Don't do what Jonathan's playing. Don't take the kids to go see it Christmas morning.
I'm not taking the kids.
You should.
Just leave
You should take the kids after you open presents, have breakfast,
Yeah.
go take them to the
Now
movie.
see how real people have to live.
Go see the Iron Claw.
Tough life.
Tough life. What's next?
Are you giving them black coffee and cigarettes for Christmas too?
Oh, whenever we go to McDonald's,
Yeah,
one black coffee.
One black coffee.
Give him the sugar.
From Christopher Brickner, Matthew Orton co-wrote Moon Knight Episode 5 Asylum, the episode where we look back on Moon Knight's life, like the death of his brother and how he got dissociative identity disorder.
Now, Matthew Orton, we talked about this on yesterday's show. Matthew Orton is the writer that Marvel has brought on to do some of the rewrites and writing for the additional footage of Captain America New World Order. Sorry, they changed the name of it to it's now
Brave New World?
Brave New World, right. It was called New World Order. And we're talking about he really doesn't have any writing credits except for like basically writing one episode of Moon Knight. But that was the best episode of Moon Knight. So maybe there's some hope there. I hope so. All right, what's next?
From C. Black, John, you're painting a bad picture of Jonathan Majors. Did you see the videos?
All right. I got to address this for a second. First of all, I did not paint any picture of Jonathan Majors. I simply read what was in the court report. That's all I did. I read what was in the court report, period. And I specifically said that all this is telling me is that, listen, Jonathan Majors in his text messages is literally telling a woman with a serious problem not to go to the hospital because it might look bad on him if she goes to get checked out at the hospital. And then telling her in a phone conversation that he is a great man, and that it would literally hurt his culture if something bad were to happen to him. Anyway, look, but what I said yesterday was like, look, maybe he's a dick, but I don't think you should remove people or cancel people because they're a dick. When you go buy a shirt, for all you know, the person who made your shirt is a total asshole. Who cares? I don't care what they're like in real life, as long as they don't break laws. Now, whether or not Jonathan Majors, we were not talking yesterday on the show about whether or not Jonathan Majors should be convicted. Not at all. And I had a lot of very stupid people writing comments to me about, so you're saying he should be convicted just because of this? I was like, did you even watch the video? Not once did I say he should be convicted. I don't care if he gets convicted. I don't care. I only care about what happens to the movies if he is convicted. What happens to the movies if certain things come out, and what kind of position is the studio put in from a PR perspective if certain things come out. I never once said I think he should be convicted. I never once said I think he's guilty. I never once said I think he's innocent either. I simply read what was in the court report, and I said this puts Marvel in a difficult position. Regardless of what's in the videos and what's in the other testimony, it was irrelevant to the topic of yesterday's conversation. I simply read the text messages that Jonathan Majors wrote. And I said that this puts Marvel in a difficult position. And I mentioned to you that I had spoken with 2 Hollywood producers, one that's a little bit more closely associated with it than not, that told me that they believe that Marvel will recast the role. That's it. I painted no picture. I simply read what was there, and then we talked about what does Marvel do now? What can they do? What should they do? And what are producers telling me that they might do? Not about whether they're right to do it or wrong to do it. Not about whether he's guilty or not guilty. Not about whether he'll be convicted or admonished or, what's the word? Acquitted. None of that. We didn't talk about any of that on yesterday's video. It was simply, here's this thing that came out and here's the impact it could have. That was it. So I didn't paint any picture. I simply read text messages and that was it. Anyway, because the topic of yesterday's video was not, is Jonathan Majors guilty? That wasn't the topic of the video. The topic of the video is, what's Marvel going to do right now? And that's what we talked about. All right, what's next?
From Seconds from Disaster, with all John's talk about people being a dick, I feel it's necessary to point out that MODOK is not a dick.
He got to die being an Avenger. That, listen, as bad as that movie is, as bad as Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania is, and how much I disliked it, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I laughed pretty hard when he said, at least I get to die as an Avenger. That was funny. That was a good moment in a bad movie. That was pretty good. All right, what's next?
From Cassidy Kelly, did you watch the video? She was looking crazy. He was trying to run from her. She kept chasing him. Also, the head injury could have come from her action.
Again, Cassidy, completely irrelevant.
And it's
that
interpretive.
had nothing to do with the topic of our conversation yesterday. And by the way, I said clearly and explicitly in the video that when we were reading his text message, I said, hey, listen, there could be other explanations, right?
Yep.
I said, on face value, everybody would agree, on face value, the conversation looks like Jonathan Majors gave her a head injury and he didn't want her to go to the hospital to get checked out because it'll make people ask questions. But I said, there could be other explanations for it, right? I mean, it seems unlikely, but it is possible. Again, we're not talking about the case as a whole. That was never the topic of yesterday's video at all, because that gets into stuff that I don't give a shit about. Like, at the end of the day, look, as a fan, I've said this very clearly. I hope none of it is true, because Jonathan Majors is not a good actor. He is a great actor. And I have loved him in everything he's in. And I want to, as a fan, I want to be able to, selfishly, I want to be able to see him continue creating the art that he's creating because I get to enjoy it. But beyond that, I don't care if he's guilty or innocent because it's none of my business. What I care about as a movie fan is what implications, what impact is this going to have on the industry that we are here to talk about? And that's about it. All right, what's next?
From Abe 10 Alpha, what's the bigger failure? The Marvels at the box office or last night's complete annihilation of the Chargers?
You know, I didn't even see the ending, and Ann and I got back from the movie. I rushed into the house to turn on the Thursday night football game. Not exactly a barn burner, Chargers versus the Raiders, but still. And it was like third quarter, okay. And then I'm like, no, something must be wrong with my eyesight because that says 49-7 in the third quarter. What? I don't even know what the final score was. Ray, can you look that up for me? But that was, woo. There's going to be a coaching change with the Chargers.
63-21.
63-20. Yeah, there's going to be a coaching change in the offseason for the Chargers. All right, what's next?
Oh, we got to do Chris here, Brickner.
Oh, Christopher Brickner. Rebel Moon review surprised me as I expected a fresh rating. Snyder's been strong recently, with his last two films being two of his best reviewed movies. Yeah,
again, you go back. I just go back to his last film, Army of the Dead, which I thought, it's not exactly a classic, but it was a fun little kick-around zombie movie that I thought was plenty enjoyable. And the majority of the critics seem to agree. The majority of the critics like the film. So I was hoping for more with their response to this one. But again, I haven't seen the movie yet myself. Let's see how we feel about it when we see it. All right, what's next?
From Optimus Prime Rib. Schindler's List was released on this day 30 years ago.
Oh my God.
What are y'all's most underappreciated Spielberg films, minus West Side Story?
Well, West Side Story, I still believe should have won the Oscar for Best Picture. And I was somebody who shit all over that movie from the day they announced it. I'm like, come on, Spielberg, you're the greatest filmmaker of all time. Why are you doing a 60s remake musical? No one's going to care, and not many people did care. And then I went to go see it, and I'm like, I take it all back. That movie was brilliant. But I think his most underrated movie is a movie I actually think is his best movie. And it's with... Oh, I was just talking about him.
John Hansu.
Jaimon Hansu.
Tom Hanks and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah. That's what the what? Yeah.
That's it, right?
No, that's not it. But I mean, I've talked about that for years. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you guys? What's your?
Yeah, for me, it's Empire of the Sun.
Tintin.
You liked it that much?
I
You know, it's
fucking love
crazy how much
Tintin.
people
I
really like that movie.
Good. That's why I was mad about West Side Story. I was like, what the hell are you doing? Give me another Tintin movie.
Yeah, we don't even have to ask Ray which one his is.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
All right,
Don't
what's
worry
next?
about it.
Don't worry about it.
From Christopher Brickner, you're doing better than the Chargers yesterday.
Yeah. Oh my God. I still, you should have seen my face. I'm like, Ann, can you look at the screen and tell me if you're seeing what I'm seeing? Is it 49-7 in the third quarter? That was crazy. All right, what's next?
From Damaris Love, sending in a $20 super chat.
Oh, thank you, Demarius.
With the Percy Jackson reviews being mostly positive, how much does this say about Disney getting themselves together with making quality product?
Not much, to be honest with you, because look, and as critical as we've been, fairly so, I think, about Marvel's product recently, we are always also quick to point out that within the decline, there have been moments of brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Shang-Chi, Ms. Marvel. There have been some great things they put out in the midst of putting out a lot of mediocre stuff. So it doesn't really say anything to me if Percy Jackson is as good as everybody's saying it is right now. It doesn't really say anything. Now, if they can start piecing together 3, 4, 5 projects in a row that we all go, ooh, that's really good, that will start to show us that the boat is starting to turn around. But one really good thing, I don't think it says much to it right now, other than this one thing might be pretty good. All right, what's next?
From John Lee, did you ever start watching season 3 of Warrior yet?
Yep.
It was so good. Hope we get a season 4. Also, Reacher season 2 is off to a great start.
Oh, I didn't even know it started airing yet. Oh, I'm very interested in that. I had
that
a
on
really
Amazon?
good time with
Yes.
Reacher season 1. Yes, I did start. I got one episode in to Warrior season 3. I love that show. So glad that it's back. And I didn't even realize Reacher was back. So I'm going to start watching that
Is
later
that like
today. I
Jack
think.
Reacher? That's that?
What's
or
that?
is Reacher something different?
Yes, it's Jack.
Okay.
All right, what's next?
From Matt Boyle, just watched Face Off for the first time.
Nice.
What?
It was ridiculous, stupid fun, and I loved it. Nick Cage as a priest is priceless. That movie's so fun and dumb.
That
I
movie,
love it.
it's still one of my all-time greatest favorite lines. Pardon me, where Nicolas Cage is about to take off in a private plane, and he's got an attractive stewardess that he says, let me ask you something. If I asked you to, wait, no, let me rephrase. If I let you suck my tongue, would you be grateful? It is
Pretty
one
sure
of
that
the
gets you
greatest
kicked off a
lines
plane now.
ever to come out of Nicolas Cage's mouth. It's like one of the most absurd, stupid things. I love Face Off. I still 100% believe they should have done a remake with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. I think that would have sold, I mean, $1 billion film right there. But yes, I love that film. All right, what's next?
From Jesse Roy, my number one movie of all time is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Oh,
And
I
I can
love that
watch
movie.
it over and over.
Tell you what, I was actually very, very fortunate. Back when I was doing AMC Movie News, we threw a party at Comic-Con. It's called the Masters of the Web Party. And we were honoring that year Edgar Wright with our Fan Choice Award, we called it, our Film Fanatic Award. And it was a great night. Edgar came and brought the whole cast of Scott Pilgrim along with him. And we got to hang out with the cast. And I love that film. Obviously, I really like it. It's set in Toronto. So it's a Canadian story, which is great for me. But it was, it's a really fun little film. I
Would you
enjoyed
say
so
it was
much.
a Ralph?
What's that?
Would you say it was a Ralph?
A Ralph. I thought you said Ralph.
Yeah. Isn't that your guys' inside joke? It's a Ralph.
Yeah. So we literally had, I told Brandon Ralph about that night, that our old scale, you know what? It's a long story. I'm not going to tell it right now. But let's move on. What's next?
There's a scale involved.
There's a scale involved.
Then we're not doing it. Jesse Roy, number 1, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Number 2, Spider-Man 2. Number 3, Baby Driver. Number 4, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. 5, Fast 5.
Fast X?
That's
Or
my
Fast
favorite.
X, excuse me.
That's my favorite Potter.
I just read that 5 2 times. Fast
Is
10.
Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, is that number 3?
No, that's like number
No, it's like
6.
six
Okay.
or
I know a
seven.
lot of people you know what? Ironically, number 3 is I find most people's favorites, and it's my least favorite of the Harry Potter.
Which one?
films.
3?
Oh, Prisoner of Azkaban?
Yes.
The
that-
time
I
travel
love
one?
that one.
everybody does.
Yeah.
Like everybody seems to be a lot of people's favorites, and it's the one I didn't
Because
quite like
that's
so
when
much.
they first kind of break away from being little kids. They start to become
Yeah.
teens.
They like they aren't in their school clothes when they
Yeah.
go away from school, which
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, why are these kids always in their dang uniforms?
All right, what's next?
From Ron H. Don't know if you covered this, but have you seen the trailer for A24's Civil War? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I saw it for the first time this morning. Nick Offerman's in there. It feels a little too close to home right now.
Mm-hmm.
It feels a little too close to home right now.
If you grew up in the South in particular, that trailer
Which you
is
did.
rough. Yep. Yeah. Because there are people who talk like that all the time about how we should secede. And it's terrifying to watch a movie like that where you go, oh, no, I know people with this ideology. This feels very, very real and plausible.
It all seems like, oh yeah, we should do that until it's your kids being lined up and shot.
Exactly.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
fucked up. So
But-
just shut the hell up.
I mean, it's just when, what's the name of the actor again who says, "What are you?" "We're American." "What kind of American?" It's like, holy, I hear people who talk like that all the time.
Absolutely.
And it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a really, it's a disturbing trailer because it just feels a little bit too close to home right now. Anyway, all right, what's next? Jesse Plemons is who it was. Thank you, Ron H. in the live chat. It was Jesse Plemons.
Gosh, he's good.
Yeah, his wife's in the movie too.
Yeah, yes, it is. From Chesley? I'm so sorry if I said that name wrong. Thoughts on actors using steroids to bulk for role? Oh. That's my thought. That noise.
It all depends. Listen, I once in my life had to take a steroid injection. It was for a knee injury.
Yeah, I mean,
If it's
It wasn't for your breakdancing career.
No,
though.
it was not for my breakdancing career. But I mean, if it is a medically supervised thing, I guess I'm okay with it. Listen, actors put on, certain color contact lenses to make their eyes look different. They do things to make their hair look different. They put on prosthetics to make their faces look different. Listen, I'm not going to pretend that I know enough about modern steroids to know the danger. I don't. I'm completely in the dark about it. So the only answer I can give is if it is a medically supervised thing, I guess I would be okay with it. Because again, they're actors playing roles. If they do things to look more like the director wants a character to look like, I guess I'm okay with it. If it is a medically sanctioned and overseen thing, but I don't know if that's a real thing or not. All right, what's next?
From Ace Blankenship. Hey, John. Fate Alchemy is the best micro-budgeted film ever. What's your favorite micro-budgeted film? Clerks is number 2.
Clerks 2 is my favorite. I mean, it all depends on what you define as a micro-budget film. Because I don't know if Clerks 2 falls under the category of a micro-budget
Clerks
film.
1 for sure, but
Yeah.
Clerks 1 definitely is a
Yeah.
micro-budget film. Yeah, 100%. But it's like, to some people, well, if it's made for $2 million, and then you get filmmakers like me that think that's all the money in the world. I mean, I made my first movie for $50,000.
Clerks 2 was $5 million.
Clerks 2. So I wouldn't call it, I mean, I guess by Hollywood standards, that's a micro-budget film.
very low budget.
Very, very low, but I guess it all depends on, but yeah, Clerks 2, if we're going to include that in the conversation, that would be my favorite quote unquote micro-budget film. All right, what's next?
From Andy, I feel the same way that John does. It's pretty surreal to see Timothée Chalamet in a lighthearted role when his roles are usually emo and or douchebag.
Yeah, he plays dark role. Oh, sorry, there's
Oh,
more.
sorry,
to
you
that.
know,
That's
this
the
is
next
part
one.
1, and
Yeah.
then okay, there
Yeah.
you go. Oh wait, no, I'm confused. That's all. That stands on its own.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, then we got more from Andy. Anyway, and on that, yes. I mean, we're used to seeing Timothée Chalamet play these really heavy, deep, multi-layered roles that takes a thespian of the highest order to kind of play. To see him then transition into this light, whimsical, joy-filled kind of role, man, my respect for him as a performer just went through the roof because he's shown me now he can do everything. He can do everything. You need him to play the drug-addicted son? He can do that. You need him to play Willy Wonka? He can do that. I mean, there's nothing this kid can't do as an actor. All right, what's next?
From Andy, 1 of 3. For the first time, I came across an old legit Batman Begins TV spot that played a Nickelback song in it. How the song was used and how the TV spot focused on Bruce and Rachel made it look like a romantic melodrama. It's funny as fuck. Rewatch Batman Begins, and anytime Bruce and Rachel came on, I couldn't help but think of Nickelback.
Was it
Never
like
made it
was
as
it like
wise
an
man.
actual one, or was it like where a fan redid it and made it like a rom-com?
I hope it was a real one of just like,
You know, I wouldn't
"And
doubt
we
if that was a
see
real
that
one.
a hero could save us."
This is how you remind me. I mean, that's what those
Never wanted to
trailers
walk
were
up a
doing
show
at
more
that
than
time,
that.
though, right? Trailers were doing that time. It is pretty funny to go back and listen to that stuff.
Jonathan, look at this photograph.
It's Friday, baby.
Every time I do, it makes me laugh. You know what's funny?
Friday, baby.
We were just in Vegas, and they were, well, just in Vegas. It was been a little bit now. The last time we were in Vegas, this big billboard of Nickelback, and they weren't like playing. So they were playing T-Mobile Arena, and it was like sold out.
Yeah. Well, it is Vegas.
Nickelback. Anyway,
They got a lot of
It
fans.
was all locals.
all the Vegas people love Nickelback.
Shane Torres does a really good bit about Nickelback. Everyone should watch that.
It's like, is it like a free hot dog or a ticket to Nickelback? You've been playing here. You're in the Players Club? Okay, yeah.
All right, what's next?
Shamrock vibes. The Batman has been my fave comic book movie for the last few years. I very much hope we get a sequel, and I'm looking forward to watching The Penguin.
Oh, I cannot wait for the Penguin. But yes, listen, the sequel is coming. It's got a release date, October of
Yeah.
2025. It's coming. So that's it is one of the best comic book movies in the last number of years. I was so impressed with it. A little bit long. My one criticism was that it could have been, sorry, Matt, but it could have been shorter. You could have taken the old scalpel to it a bit. But I thought it was it was a great Batman movie. You know what I mean? It felt like Batman. It was great. All right, what's next?
From Christ Courage, who sends in a $20 super chat.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you guys ever go back to old shows you watched as a kid?
Yeah.
Yep.
Whenever I feel like revisiting my childhood, I always go back to the 2004 through 2006 Power Rangers series. What's y'all's childhood show you revisit? Thanks, and bring on the filthy.
Star
Well, it's
Blazers
not
and
going to be
Transformers.
04, 06.
I was going to say Power Rangers in 2004. Woof, am I old.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it's Star Blazers and Transformers. That's that's the stuff I go back to. What about you? Well, Ray, you are currently doing that. Are you
Yeah, I
excited?
currently do. I'm actually trying to watch the 2007? The Ninja Turtles that people are talking to me about. The one that I actually love the art style of it, like the way they look. But yeah, I'm going through that on Paramount Plus.
Do you see Disney Plus just announced a new batch of episodes for Bluey are coming out? Yeah. New Ray would be excited about
I'm not going back to that. I'm always on that.
that. I'm always on Bluey.
I mean, I definitely go back to. I was still a little older. I was like mid to late middle school and then high school, but Batman animated series.
Oh, yeah.
from
Oh yeah.
I revisit that
I can
one
go
a
back
lot.
to that anytime.
Yeah.
I do that. I rewatch. I actually just did a podcast about it. I rewatch the 90s Sailor Moon cartoon a lot.
You know, I never saw a single episode of that.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, man.
Yeah.
There's so many. There's like 200.
All right, what's next?
And they're all gems. From Mod Awesome. Birds of Prey made more than the Marvels.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Birds of Prey is good. I know no one in this room agrees with
Oh
me,
my
but I
God,
like
that
Birds
movie's
of
so
Prey.
bad.
I like elements
I
of
didn't
Birds
think it
of
was that
Prey.
bad.
I
I
really
definitely like Ewan
I thought it was
McGregor in
terrible.
He's great in it.
Yeah.
I was excited because I was so excited for Ewan McGregor. I really like Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah.
And I just hated that movie. I wish I liked it more. It's the only DC, no, there's only 2 DC movies I ever didn't like. One was that, and the other was Wonder Woman 1984. Those are the only 2 I didn't like.
I didn't like that one.
All right, what's next?
From Gone with the Cheddar. I went to an AMC recently, and their popcorn sucks.
Well, don't
Wow.
get it.
Yeah.
Listen, AMC, their popcorn's okay. Their popcorn's okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely the least enjoyable of the major chains.
Depends if it's fresh, right? You know, it's like when.
But
do
you know
get
what's really
there?
awful? They have this, what they call, what is it? Artisan popcorns or
yeah, all right.
especially artisan
gourmet
popcorn. Gourmet popcorn. That's
Yeah.
what they got. There's 3 flavors. There's
Right.
caramel, something, and cheddar.
It looks like no one ever touches them.
I order the cheddar every time.
Okay.
The first couple of times I ordered the cheddar one, I really enjoyed it. And I don't know what this is or what they can do to change it. But the last 4 or 5 times that I got the cheddar popcorn, it's all kernel. Like it'll be a
Ew.
popped piece of popcorn, But
it's still
within
hard.
it,
Yeah.
half the mass is taken up by like hard kernel in it,
You
and
lose a tooth.
it's become
Chip a
impossible
tooth.
to eat it
Yeah.
You're like the only person I ever see get that gourmet popcorn. I'm like, I'm gonna
because it's
start.
overpriced.
Hey,
but
their
it's-
chicken
yeah.
tendies are pretty good though.
I'm gonna take a
I had that the
picture of
other
Those
day.
are
The chicken tenders are
good.
pretty
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you see their AMC is going to start serving sliders?
No,
they
did
already
start-
are, and they look
Oh, they're already
great.
doing it.
I was gonna order them yesterday, but then I
Yeah.
was like,
The beer cheese bacon ones look delish.
That does sound good. All right. What's next?
We got our members.
From Dominic, I think making multiverse the main theme post Endgame has been a mistake.
Yep.
Their logic and science behind it is confusing for me as someone who's pretty plugged into the MCU.
Listen, I remember sitting in the Celine Dion Theater at Caesar's Palace at CinemaCon in April, and Kevin Feige comes out on stage, and this is now, and he proclaimed it, the multiverse saga. And I went, in my best Dave Chappelle, oh no. Not only because multiverse is stupid, and there's not going to be any consistency. Seriously, their definitions of what constitutes multiverse and timelines has literally changed from film to film. But also, it gets way too inside baseball. And I said this when we came out of CinemaCon. This is going to alienate some of the fan base. Because the most casual of cash fans can go in and watch Civil War. They can watch Winter Soldier. They can watch Shang-Chi. They can watch whatever. They can even watch the first Doctor Strange. But you're getting a little too inside geeky now. And I think you're going to start to abandon some of the fans, alienate some of the fans. And I think that's happened. I think this has been, there have been a couple of good films recently, yes, but overall, I think this multiverse saga whole idea and direction has been a disaster. I really do. But we'll see how they're able to turn things around.
Like bad diarrhea, there's no consistency.
That is not how I ever said it, but we'll go with that.
I make 2 Nickelback jokes.
All right, what's next?
From Kayak, what do Joyride, Dumb Money, and Godzilla Minus One have in common? You recommended them all, but sadly, none of them were played anywhere near me.
Oh, no.
It's something to think about when it comes to the box office performance of smaller movies. I assume there are more people like me who'd like to support them, but couldn't.
Yeah. I wish Dumb Money had done better.
Yeah.
Dumb Money it's going to be in my top 10 best films of the year list. 100% it's going to be. Joyride might actually end up being in my top 10 best films of the year list. It's one of the best comedies I've seen in the last decade. Those are all 3 films. Whether or not you had the opportunity to see it in the theater, you got to watch. These 3 films are all fantastic. And
aren't you going through that right now with American Fiction? It's hard to find.
yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
like Ann and I decided we wanted to go see American Fiction tonight, but it's not playing anywhere near us. We got to drive into Burbank.
That's
an
the
hour
thing
away.
Wow.
Go
about
see it.
like we're spoiled where we're at.
Yeah.
Chris North Hollywood, Burbank, but literally everything is playing. Or you go into Hollywood and there's like a Lamleys or something.
My Regal doesn't always play everything, but then, I just,
Well, at
no.
AMC, you got the
I have to
4
drive 2 miles.
You got the 16, you got the 6, and you got the 8. It's
Yeah.
playing somewhere.
Well, and the
Exactly.
Burbank 16 is the 3rd busiest movie theater in America.
Yeah.
Like, so everything's going to play there. So it's crazy. All right, what's next?
Jonathan living that burb life. Someone wrote.
That burb life
Oh, Lord.
from Fanjecture. I can't wait for the OCU, Ocean Cinematic Universe.
Oh, it's coming.
I mean, it's already here, right? They got
Yeah.
the main films. You have the Sandra Bullock one. Now they're doing a prequel. Ocean's 14 is coming. I mean, it's kind of there already. All right, what's next?
From Ariel. So, who do you think is going to be? It's going to be replacing Jonathan Majors as Kang. I personally like to see Gugu try to take on the Kang character. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, there's 2 different thoughts.
It's going to be
Number
Terrence
1
Howard.
is that regardless of what's going on with Jennifer Majors, with Jonathan Majors' court stuff, Marvel may just decide because of the performance of the films that they might move away from the Kang storyline. And we've heard a lot of rumors and whispers about that. Whether or not that's true or not, we don't know. We'll see. But that is a very real possibility that they are not going to replace Jonathan Majors. They're just going to move away from the Kang character. And that had nothing to do with Jonathan Majors. The second thing is, replacing Jonathan Majors wouldn't be all that difficult, other than the fact that you're trying to replace massive talent. But they've already established in this MCU that, hey, another universe's version of a character doesn't have to look anything like that character. Right? Like J. Jonah Jameson looks the same in every universe, but Spider-Man looks totally different in every universe. One Spider-Man can look like Tobey Maguire, one Spider-Man can look like Andrew Garfield, another Spider-Man can look like Tom Holland. All right. So what that is telling us that they can literally cast a shoe to play Kang if they wanted to and say, yeah, this is the Kang 735 from the Shoe universe. And it's,
Shoeverse.
you know, an Air Jordan going, I will take over the universe. Blah! You know, it's, I mean, they can literally be anybody or anything because it would have to be another multiversal variant of Kang. And they've already set it up that they can all look the same or they can all look different. So it could really be anybody. But I've got a feeling they're not going to recast Kang because I don't think they're going to continue to have Kang. I don't know that. I'm just guessing, but we'll have to see how it all works out.
I can't get the picture out of my head of Jordan Peele or Michael Key playing Kang. Just turn it into like a comedy.
That would be so a gold. Key and Peele both playing Kang. Together we are
Just
Kang.
awkward silence between really weird lines.
But to be honest, I've been seeing some great fan art of Denzel Washington as Kang, and I'm like, wow, that would be...
Fan art never moves the needle for me on who should play
well,
the
this
role.
one was pretty good.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, Denzel Washington, if you're going to try to find somebody that has equal to or greater talent than Jonathan Majors, that's the kind of game you're going to have to play. Like you're going to have to play a Denzel Washington kind of game because there ain't many people out there that are like as good or better than Jonathan Majors.
Mahershala is not doing anything right now.
Yeah, he's available.
Yeah, he's probably available because that Blade thing we all know ain't ever going to happen. All right, what's next?
From CJ Rebirth. Absolutely loved Wonka last night. Nearly cried by the end. The music was great and probably my favorite Timothée Chalamet movie. Love how it paid homage to the original movie, yet takes place in a different world. What matters is the people you share it with.
That line nearly broke me. And I'm glad you didn't say the full thing so people don't have the context. But that line comes out in the movie. I'm like, yeah, that's really special. I got a little choked up when I read that line. So, yeah, I agree. I really thought the movie was just wonderful. And it even challenged the way I look at the original movie now a little bit. And I think in a really good way. All right, let's take two more, then we're going to wrap it up. What's next?
From Yotij. Has anyone started the live-action Yu Yu Hakusho on Netflix yet? Yes. I just got 2 episodes in last night, same, and I'm super impressed by the VFX. The fight with the Red Demon in episode 2 was almost better than anything in recent DC MCU projects, LOL.
So this is a show that's already started,
Yes.
and you're watching it?
Yes, I watched the first 2 episodes. Heckin' eye violence in episode 1, but I've got spidey sense for it now, so I was like, that's going to be gross, I'm going to turn away. And it was 15 minutes of Logan going, you can, oh, no, do
Nope,
not
you
watch
can't look
that.
yet.
And I could hear all the noises, and I went, yeah, I'm good for now. Really well done.
Oh man.
Did they drop the whole season at once, or are they
Easy.
dropping it episodes at a time?
They dumped the whole thing. It's only 5 episodes. For me so far, because I started episode 3 and then I had to go to bed, it was 9 p.m. It was too late. I know. Stayed up a whole 30 minutes later than usual. But the dialogue and exposition parts right now are a little slow, but once you get into the action, gosh, it's really great. The fight choreography is incredible. It's so fun.
Wait, did you see the newest episode of Monarch?
I haven't. I'm behind.
John?
When did the newest one come out?
Last night.
Oh, then no, I haven't seen the newest one.
I can't wait to hear what you think.
Oh, then I'm going to race home and watch it
This
today.
has to be the pinnacle.
All right, I'm going to race home and watch it today. All right, what's next?
From
Callum there.
Callum1327. Hey, John and crew. I was so sad to hear about the loss of Andre Bauer.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
he played my favorite sitcom character, Captain Holt in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. If you've seen the show, do you have a favorite Captain Holt moment?
I never watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine, to be honest with you, but he's been one of those actors
Wait a second.
where the way Rob puts it is like, whenever that actor shows up, it classes up the joint.
Yeah.
Like whenever he would be in something, it raises the perception of quality. I mean, before Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he had already had a marvelous career.
Sure.
He had such a great screen presence about him. So yeah, that was,
He was a chief, right?
Yeah, he's
the
the
bald,
chief.
the bald.
yeah,
chief.
he was the main
Yeah,
captain.
he was the
Oh my-
captain.
He passed a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I remember him first in 1989's Glory.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think
That-
that's where most people think,
Yeah.
would think of when they
That
think
was
of
his
Oh.
big break and everything. But I mean, as Captain Holt, he's usually played these very stoic, intelligent, but dramatic roles. And Captain Holt kind of flipped that on its head of giving him this incredibly, wonderfully comedic character who typically is the straight man, but because of how ridiculous that world is and the stuff they have him say is just so bonkers. He eats a marshmallow for the first time in an episode and it's just like, One of the best parts, though, and it's the culmination of the entire show. I think you'd honestly really like it if you watched it. I think it'd be just right up your street. Is he has this really beautiful moment with Andy Samberg's character about how he would be so proud if he had ever had a son like him. And it's just a really beautiful, moving moment where then he ends it with a joke, though, of being like, not too bad for a robot, huh? Beep, blop, blorp. And it's just, it makes me just tear up every single time.
All right, guys. And that's all the time we have for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making the show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number one, because you gave us fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Guys, have a fabulous weekend filled with fun or relaxation or a good mix of the two, whatever it is you guys need. Hopefully, I will be recovered completely by Monday, so fingers crossed. And we got a lot of stuff to look forward to next week. I'm really excited for it. So, in the meantime, I want to thank Ray Ora.
Have a good weekend. Be safe.
Jonathan Voico.
Later.
Chris Carr.
See ya.
My name's John Campea, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Have a great weekend. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.